Between 2000 and 1650 BCE, Minoan Crete functioned as a palatial economy, a highly centralized supply chain network. The core function of this network was the precise collection, hoarding, and redistribution of caloric energy. Physical storage of this energy occurred at central hubs like Knossos. These rows of massive pithoi provided industrial-scale warehousing for the civilization's caloric reserves. To fill these vessels, the system required absolute climate predictability to generate a reliable agricultural surplus year after year. This administrative technology, known as Linear A, was developed specifically to track the massive throughput of these inputs and outputs. Precise accounting allowed the Minoans to manage their inventory with almost no friction. Every grouping and character represents data points in a macro-scale ledger. High-efficiency systems mathematically require the elimination of backup reserves to reach their maximum potential. The Minoans reached a state of operational precision where the system worked perfectly, provided it never encountered a significant delay or a broken link in a chain. This reliance on logic over physical barriers is evident in the architecture of the palaces, which completely lack defensive land fortifications or walls. Defensive capital was pushed outward into the sea. The Minoans secured their supply chain by maintaining a strict maritime monopoly. Centralized hubs on the north coast of Crete managed these hub-and-spoke trade routes with absolute regional authority. The trade fleet projected a defensive radius that neutralized threats in the open water. This kinetic deterrent prevented adversaries from ever reaching the island's undefended core. These shallow-draft, long-oared galleys were the hardware that maintained that deterrent. Their design allowed for high-speed and rapid troop transport. Each vessel functioned as both a cargo hauler and a rapid response interceptor, creating a dual-use efficiency that protected the trade routes while generating wealth. By reinvesting the capital that would have been spent on stone walls into the fleet, the Minoans accelerated their wealth generation. This created a critical single point of failure. If the naval apparatus was ever bypassed or deleted, the inland logistics centers had no secondary defense mechanisms. The Minoan Empire relied on the ocean as a shield, leaving its core fatally exposed if the maritime algorithm was ever disrupted. In 1600 BCE, the Thera caldera detonated. This volcanic explosivity index 7 event released kinetic energy comparable to the 1815 eruption of Mount Tambora. The eruption ejected between 28 and 41 cubic kilometers of dense rock-equivalent material. Instantly vaporizing that volume of rock required a thermal energy release that exceeded any capacity for human response. The epicenter was situated in the Cyclades, only 110 kilometers north of Crete. While the distance absorbed the primary shockwave, preventing the immediate destruction of the palaces, the eruption deployed two systemic killers across the Aegean. These secondary physical effects targeted the specific vulnerabilities of the Minoan system. The displacement of the ocean generated megatsunamis that radiated outward from the caldera. The wall of water reached heights estimated between 35 and 150 meters. The wave propagated southward, impacting the northern coastline of Crete with its full kinetic force. This instantly deleted the Minoan naval yards, dry docks, and the active fleets. The maritime monopoly and the entire security apparatus of the island vanished in minutes. The second killer was a thermodynamic collapse triggered by the Plinian column. The 30-kilometer-high eruption column injected 15 billion tons of magma and ash into the stratosphere. This high-altitude particulate shield effectively blocked solar radiation across the eastern Mediterranean. This atmospheric fallout is still visible in the geological record. These white and gray bands of volcanic tephra represent the literal end of a climate cycle. Meters of toxic pumice and ash physically suffocated the agricultural estates that fueled the palatial economy. The resulting volcanic winter led to severe multi-year crop failures. The caloric algorithm at Knossos collapsed. The warehouses emptied because the agricultural inputs no longer existed. The eruption uncoupled the empire's supply chain, starving an optimized system that had eliminated its emergency redundancy. On Crete, the population largely survived the initial physical shock, but their economic and political structures were fatally compromised. The loss of calories and security created a power vacuum that paralyzed any attempt at recovery. Generations later, mainland Mycenaean Greeks arrived on the island. This transition functioned as a hostile corporate acquisition of infrastructure. Archaeological evidence shows that the major palatial warehouses were occupied and reused. These storage vessels remained intact and unburned, indicating an orderly transition of the real estate. The invaders spared the infrastructure because the centralized warehousing remained a valuable asset. Because the Minoans built no walls and had lost their naval deterrent to the tsunami, Mycenaean administrators simply walked into the bankrupt logistics centers. Physical infrastructure is useless once the underlying security and caloric inputs fail. The Mycenaeans appropriated the existing administrative tools with surgical efficiency. They did not replace the system. They updated the software to log inventory in their own early Greek language. This clay fragment, found in the archives of Knossos, records the precise moment the management shifted. Archaeologists track this stratigraphic shift for linear A to linear B. The ledger demarcations are identical, only the language being used to count the remaining assets has changed. This transition to linear B marks the physical receipt of a macroeconomic foreclosure.